In our introduction series, using the Sha Star well means a worry-free life. Today we discuss the Qing Yang star. When a chart shows this star at birth, clients often worry during fortune telling, saying their work or fate is affected by Qing Yang. In Zi Wei Doshu, Qing Yang star is similar to an element in the 8 characters, Bazi. In fact, it corresponds to the Yang Ren in the 8 characters, which refers to a ram's horn-shaped blade. When we were young, we learned that the knives used by the Hu people were curved because they were a people on horseback. So when riding and slashing, the blade could break bones instantly, which also shows a sense of determination. We say that the 4 Sha stars all represent those emotions in our subconscious that we cannot resist. The Qing Yang star represents a force of decisiveness, a force of persistence, a force that says, I must do it this way. This kind of force often makes people feel that someone is stubborn, too tough, and unwilling to listen to others, so it gives the impression of a very negative, harmful intent. Of course, all forms of harmful intent carry this feeling, making people think it's very negative and bad. But as we often say, if you use it in the right place, it can actually be a good thing. Think about it. If someone has a strong tendency to work according to their destiny, it means they have a lot of persistence in their own life. Undeniably, humans live in a social group, and if you often have a lot of persistence about your own life, others might find you difficult to get along with. Right? People might ask, why don't you ever listen to us? But looking at it from another perspective, if this person is, for example, the eldest son in the family or an entrepreneur, someone who has to shoulder a lot of responsibilities in life, then that kind of persistence in their own beliefs becomes very important. Now, let's set aside whether their beliefs are right or wrong. That's a technical issue. So we won't discuss the value judgment of right or wrong for now, but rather focus on this kind of persistence in one's beliefs. Now think about it. In this world, is there anyone who has achieved great success or built a great enterprise who wasn't exceptionally persistent in their own beliefs? Every single one of them is. So from this perspective, we can see that those who are able to take on responsibility are able to create. Those who create extraordinary achievements all need to possess this power of persistence and determination within themselves. At this point, the presence of Qing Yang star can provide significant help. People who have Qing Yang star in their life palace often have this trait. They have strong self-belief and feel that they absolutely must do things their own way. He feels that he must persevere. So when his fate line encounters difficulties in life, he is relatively more likely than others to overcome those hardships. Usually, when you face difficulties, it comes down to a few situations. First, you might be naive. Second, the people around you are foolish and drag you along with them. If you are naive and still insist on your way, that can be really miserable, right? But in most cases, it's actually others who are being foolish with you, others urging you to act foolishly, and in that environment, there are a lot of messages and distractions interfering with you. At times like this, if you stick firmly to your own beliefs, at the very least, you can avoid more than half of the problems caused by foolishness. That gives you a much better chance. But if you yourself have issues and you still insist on your way, then of course it can't be denied. You'll end up in a terrible situation. So for most people who think that having Qin Liang Xin in the life palace or in the wealth palace or in the career palace is bad, the reason it has a negative impact is right here. Because people like this, whether in their career or in life, just can't listen to what others say. We would describe it as, when we discuss this issue from this perspective, we often forget that if this person is inherently wise and has a clear mind, then when their persistence is reasonable, doesn't that actually help them avoid many risks and keep them from being influenced by others? So this is also why we believe that if Qin Yang Xing is in the life palace, often such a person is able to break through life's difficulties more easily because they stick to their own beliefs, which always allows them to change their circumstances. When it comes to the Guanlu Palace, it's undeniable that in your work, you may have a lot of persistence and so on, and in the workplace, there will inevitably be interpersonal issues. But it doesn't matter. If in your work or career, the star you have is the Sun star, and the Sun star happens to encounter the Wenchang star, and then the Sun also forms a circle with this Qing Yang star. On the contrary, this will make you very powerful and charismatic because you firmly believe in what you can do, and your main star itself possesses leadership abilities. So it really depends on what your main star is. Of course, if it happens to be something like the Sha Star, well, the Sha Star itself is already very stubborn. And if you add the Qing Yang star, it becomes even harder for people to stand out. This also means that if your main star is a peach blossom star, and you add the Qing Yang star, it's actually often quite good. Because the peach blossom star itself is better at getting along with others, and with the addition of the Qing Yang star, I won't lose my sense of self just because everyone gets along with me and everything is harmonious. On the contrary, I won't be like that. Of course, if it's in the wealth deity or wealth duke position. Of course, people will think, if the wealth palace has the Qing Yang star, isn't it easy to lose money? That's because you spend money entirely according to your own wishes, so it's naturally easier to lose wealth. But similarly, if your wealth palace has good enough conditions, for example, if it has Zi Wei Qisha or Zi Wei Huaquan, for example, if Wuqiu or Tanlang is present and transforms into Huaquan or Hualu, or if Tanlang transforms into Huaquan or Hualu, in such cases it means you are very capable of creating wealth and you stick firmly to your own stance. And to those viewers who want to ask me about Wuku transforming into Huaquan or Hualu, and whether Qing Yang would be there, if Qing Yang is present, and if it's in position, then Tan Lang would likely resolve it. We won't discuss this issue here. Those who have watched my videos for a long time should already know that this situation can occur. There are tendencies in the luck cycle or natal chart, but they are influenced by the 4 transformations of the luck cycle, so they can appear together. In any case, Qing Liangxin represents a resolute force. As for this resolute force, as long as we use it in the right place, it will be extremely, extremely helpful to us, because there are so many times when we really need this kind of determination, especially when you're starting a business. That's why I often joke that when we talk about the gyroscope star, we always mention this point. Where is the best place to put the gyroscope quality? The gyroscope is best in the spouse palace, because relationships are something we work on for life. Whatever the relationship, it's everyone's lifelong lesson. When I invest my heart, if the gyroscope is in the spouse palace, my tendency is in the life palace. And when Zhengqiang is working below, my persistence in myself will affect the 12 palaces. I will really believe in myself and be willing to pursue my own dreams. This is even mentioned in Mind, Body, Spirit teachings. You have to believe in yourself and follow your own path. If you have a tendency, you are naturally like this. As for Qin Yang Xin, actually, when it is in the life palace, career palace, or wealth palace, usually, as long as the time is right, he should have a pretty good career. Of course, this is undeniable. This star is actually not very suitable to be placed in the 6th palace of work, because when it's in the 6th palace position, having such strong personal pursuits and willpower in interpersonal relationships is not a good thing. It can easily lead to some conflicts. However, if it's in your own palace, then it becomes a great source of motivation. As we often say, this is like a knife, and it's better to hold the knife in your own hand. If your Qin Yang star is in the 6th palace, then you need to learn to trust your own goodwill towards others, but at the same time, you should also listen more to their opinions. Finally, if it's placed in the Z10 county, will it lead to financial loss? First of all, it tends to affect relationships with family members, but will it cause financial loss? Yes, because if you put a knife in the wealth vault, of course it's more likely to lead to bankruptcy. Why is that? Usually it means you tend to make impulsive purchases. Or in your home, you might encounter bad feng shui that makes things worse. But as for these details, what we're really saying is that when it comes to feng shui, we can discuss this area. Today, I'm just letting everyone know that Ling Xing represents strategy and Huaxing represents enthusiasm. Qing Yang represents determination. Having determination and applying it to your career is actually a very good thing. In the past, people thought that if you were so invested, you shouldn't start a business, or that your career would easily run into problems, or you might feel like problems are likely to happen. But that's just a traditional way of thinking. The traditional mindset is that stability is always good. But with stability, you can't achieve great things. Without stormy waves, how could you ever encounter big fish or giant prawns? It's only in stormy, turbulent situations that you can catch a big haul of fish. When things are calm, the fish won't even come out. This is a law of the universe. What you need to consider is, when you hear a lot of people lost in superstition saying, oh, you have a bad star, that's not good, you should first think about whether that really makes sense. If you want to make big money, you have to do things that others can't or won't do. And how can you do what others can't? You have to be determined enough. Migrant workers need to have a positive and open heart. So having a positive and open heart is actually a great help and support for a person. Thank you, everyone.